morning. I'm Kristen Crawley here with James Stratton, live outside Police District 1 headquarters here in Rockford, where a peaceful protest has ended chaotically here tonight with police and now launching what could be tear gas or smoke behind us right now.
Yeah, I haven't seen people coughing or anything with that, but you can see just in the last probably 5 or 10 minutes, we've seen that smoke, tear gas come from the line of police here at RPD District 1. This is where the protest turned violent. Rocks into windows here at RPD District 1. The main sign has profanity spray painted all over it. And judging by the way other people are coughing, that is tear gas right there.
Yeah, we can definitely see there's another news crew here. Actually, I just had to break down and run. They're coughing, and this gas is, well, we were right in the thick of it, but we're near where police are, so hopefully we're far enough away so this gas is not going to affect us. But this was used to disperse the crowd. They've been telling people you need to leave or you will be arrested. An officer coming by right now to maybe talk with us. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're going to move. Yep, we appreciate it. Thank you, sir. So we're going to move now because the gas is coming this way. So we're going to ask to move down over this way. We're going to keep talking to you live. Okay, so make sure, yep, I can feel it in my eyes now. There's the gas. Yep, there you go.
So that is tear gas. I am now, in my eye. So this protest, well, if you can flip the light on for me, we can kind of show people what happened here. This is the protest here at West State and Avon, and tear gas is now being sprayed. In our eyes, in protesters' eyes, we're kind of moving down the way here, but this is where it actually turned violent here at RPD District 1. Rocks thrown through the windows. The sign, I don't want to show it to you on TV because of the profanity spray painted on it. And we're going to stop right here because it looks like we're kind of out of the gas here, Kristen. But this started as a peaceful protest at about 4 o'clock.
Right, it certainly did, and it's definitely not ending that way. And I want to just, I had a little piece of it in my eye, and it stung a little bit. I can't even imagine what it's like being in the thick of it. I can see other people here are bending over in pain, needing to flush themselves out, flush their eyes out. So this is very serious right now. Police have been in basically essentially a standoff with protesters for the last few hours, and you can see them facing off with each other. The police in their full guard, their gear, their helmets, their riot gear essentially, and then the protesters facing them, and every once in a while the police would push forward, they'd pull back, and we saw rubber bullets fired, we saw the tear gas fired. No violence aside from that we can tell. No shots fired or anything like that, thankfully, but still a very chaotic and very scary night tonight here in Rockford.
Yeah, from protesters, to be clear, rocks and bottles thrown at police property as well. But for the last, I'd say 3 hours or so, we have been on the lawn of RPD District 1, and protesters and police have gone back as far as the front door of Police District 1, and I guess south as far as the other side of State Street. It's been kind of a back and forth, and you can just hear those rounds of tear gas. That is not shots being fired, that tear gas coming off. We saw all of the police officers put their gas masks on about 5 minutes before we came on the air tonight. One of the officers came over to us, said they're shooting the tear gas across from Police District 1, across the lawn into West State. You saw the smoke and the tear gas from it. Not shooting it our way, thankfully, at the moment.
So things started really taking a turn for the worse. It was somewhere around 7 o'clock tonight when a crowd wanted to go and confront police over at District 1 headquarters. Another portion of the crowd was asking them not to. They didn't want this to turn violent. They wanted it to be peaceful. And people started throwing rocks at the windows, shattering some of the windows. And that's when it really kind of just started falling apart at that point. The SWAT team arrived, and we had multiple police cars and sheriff's offices arriving here to provide backup to District 1. And then it just unfolded even more so from there with the rubber bullets and then just now with the tear gas. But they did ask people to go home or they would be arrested, and that was several hours ago. So I think police reaching their boiling point here of the fact that they want people to go away because they don't want to see what's happened in Minneapolis and Washington, D.C., and even in Indiana and Atlanta, everywhere else across the country, the violence that has happened. They don't want to see it here.
And they definitely don't. We also we heard from the loudspeaker here. This is a video from earlier that we saw tonight of a person being taken into custody, is what I'm being told. We've seen a couple of people taken into custody. We're not sure if they were arrested and charged because we simply don't have that information. But a few different protesters clashed with police and were taken into custody back on the other side of the police line into District 1, where the squad car is sitting in front.
I want to quickly mention right now the tear gas has been kind of dispersed. I can see people making their way back the way they came. So again, the police are positioned up behind us over this hill in a line formation, and I see people on bicycles. I see people walking on State Street and Avon Street, and they're walking back toward where they were. So I don't know if they're planning on continuing this protest, if the tear gas was enough to disperse them, or if they're just going to keep going and butting heads with police to try and get their message across that they don't feel like they're safe in this community. They want their civil rights heard.
So on top of that, you were telling them to disperse and the tear gas trying to get them to disperse. RPD did tweet about an hour ago saying, "You've protested, we respect your protest, but you need to leave peacefully and you need to leave peacefully now." And an hour after that, we're now seeing tear gas here on the front lawn of RPD District 1. But it started peaceful. You were at that peaceful protest in Haskell Park. I want to talk about that as well. What was that scene like?
Yeah, absolutely. So around 3:30, people started coming. It didn't start until 4, and we already had roughly 50, 60 people in the park at 3:30. By the time it reached 4:30, there were thousands in Haskell Park, and there were just people congregating, and it was very peaceful. We had multiple people give their speeches about what life has been like for them as a black man, a black woman in the Rockford community. Some of them criticizing the police, saying that they have targeted them, that they have not felt safe, and that they want justice. And they wanted this rally to be peaceful, and it stayed peaceful for hours. They marched all the way to City Hall, and they went to the Justice Center, and then they ended here at Police District 1. And through that whole time, it was essentially peaceful. There were people who are outraged, they're angry, and they want their voices heard. People who feel like they have been oppressed for years, for decades, for their entire lives. And the fact of the matter is the way things have become here across the nation and here locally is just a sign of the frustration that they are feeling, that they want their voices heard and they haven't been heard up until now.
And a lot of frustration boiling over here at RPD District 1. This is what it looked like before the sun went down here at RPD District 1 that you're seeing. At one point, a very sort of tension but also peaceful image that sticks out in my mind was a line of police officers in full tactical gear, a line of protesters holding their signs and whatnot, and Assistant Deputy Chief or Chief Deputy Kurt Wisnan standing in between them on his day off, he said, trying to talk to people. There were at least some sort of conversations happening between police and between protesters, between Kurt Wisnan and others, and that is obviously not the case right now. The group got a lot smaller, the group of protesters, and we're seeing it a lot more violent here at RPD District 1.
And we're seeing police cars as well mobilized right now. Some of them just jumping the curb and going across the lawn. I don't know exactly where they're headed right now, but we did also see multiple squad cars over at the Winnebago County Justice Center. That's where the crowd also stopped. The protest did not turn violent there, though, but it looked like the sheriff's deputies were prepared if that were to be the case. Turned out that it was District 1 that got the brunt of that violence here tonight. So they have blocked off a lot of streets. I don't know if anybody planned on going out tonight, but you would want to avoid the downtown area. A lot of streets are blocked off tonight. A lot of protesters still kind of scattered around here. I think that people are not ready to go home, despite police telling them to do so.
I'm not sure how much we can pan over and kind of show the people here on West State Street, if we can kind of see them out there. So when they shot that tear gas, it was into West State, kind of the West State corner of Avon, and everyone sort of dispersed this way. Now they're kind of hanging out here. This is a much smaller group than we saw at Haskell Park, downtown, and a very much smaller group than we saw when this first peacefully started. A lot of Facebook comments tonight saying this group is not the same group that was there at 4 and 5 p.m. It's hard to say if that is true, but obviously this group is much more violent than that peaceful group trying to get their message across.
There definitely was a division in the groups at some point here tonight. We saw it. We saw them standing, the group that had organized this, standing together, trying to block people from going to the police district right at their doors to keep them from antagonizing police. And they said one of the main reasons was, don't give them a reason. Don't give them a reason to shoot us. We already lose too many black brothers and sisters to police. Don't antagonize them. And so that was really the main message from them. And then the other side was basically saying, we've done the silent protest. We've been peaceful. It hasn't worked. We need to do more.
And we do have sound and video from that earlier. Let's listen in.
Sound go.
It's really powerful. Stuff like this needs to be seen and noticed. I think we've been quiet for too long, and now everyone is just fed up, and they're fed up with all the crap, and we are just here, and it's really powerful. And I feel like all of this should be seen and should be noticed, which it is, and I'm here. You see how we've been marching ever since.
Again, that was the soundbite from earlier of people that were trying to get their message across, trying to get their equality message across and their message across to police and to the people in Rockford. We are going to have much more coverage of this. We are going to reset a little bit. We are going to go to commercial break and come right back here to the now violent protests here in RPD District 1 in downtown Rockford. Night of the protest turned violent here in Rockford. This is Police District 1. We've moved back up into the parking lot. No tear gas flying at the moment, Kristen. A couple of people being detained and put into custody right behind us.
Yeah, I mean, this is just really the center of what has now become the action of this rally and protest out here today. But we do want to show you a little bit of what happened earlier, what led up to the tear gas being fired. So essentially what we saw is we saw a SWAT team come in today, and they said people need to disperse. I actually believe we have some audio from that. If we can tune into that right now and hear, I'm sorry, no audio, but they were saying to the crowd to disperse. And then afterwards, that's when police really came out with their shields trying to back up the crowds of people. So it's just been a really chaotic night for the last several hours out here.
It definitely has, and it's actually gotten more peaceful since we came on the air about 12 minutes ago here in RPD District 1. The group of people seems to be dispersed back toward downtown a little bit and dispersed as a group even. No more tear gas, a few people being taken into custody behind us, and still some vulgarities from people as they drive by and as they walk by as well.
Yeah, there are certainly far fewer people here right now than there were just a few hours ago. Not really sure, though, if these people who are standing here out by the street, if they plan on continuing protesting. Police are holding their ground here, although it even seems like there is a little bit fewer police presence as well. We don't see as many officers out here as I did about an hour ago. And we did also see officers by the Justice Center as well. Just really all over the city, all the places where they might be targeted by protesters, and they want to make sure that they are ready to respond.
So let's talk about if you're not here and you're planning on coming through here, do not try to. West State Street moving very slow, the corner of West State and Avon. Police officers blocked off. It looks to be another person being taken into custody right behind us, or at least being detained. Again, if you're trying to drive through here, try not to. There's police blocking where Jefferson meets State, kind of by the Justice Center, as well as to the west of Avon as well. Kind of a chaotic scene if you're not down here but trying to get through here.
Right, and I think that we have seen a number of people detained by police today. I don't know if we have video of that earlier. We actually saw some people on the ground with police as they were putting them in handcuffs. So we're going to take a look at that video right now. I think that this is not what anybody really wanted to see here. We don't want to see people arrested, and we don't want to see these protests turn violent, but you are seeing the frustration culminate of a group of people who feel like that this is their only option right now, and who feel like this is the message that's being shared across the entire country right now. They're seeing other places respond similarly, so taking similar steps there. But it remains to be seen how many people were detained by officers today, and maybe how many more still have yet to be detained. We see that person again behind us being put in handcuffs and being put away in a squad car right now.
Yeah, they're being put into the Winnebago County Sheriff's van there. There were multiple people inside actually when they opened the side of the door there. This did, again, we keep saying this started peaceful. Before it started at Haskell Park, it started with a music video at the courthouse as well. So peaceful there before it turned into what we're experiencing right now.
All right.
We are going to go to our commercial break now, we are told, and have much more coverage here from RPD District 1 of the protests that started peaceful and have now turned violent here in Rockford.
We continue our special report tonight. James Stratton and Kristen Crowley here outside District 1 Police Headquarters, where a rally turned violent and chaotic here tonight. And it seems while a bulk of the crowd has dispersed, it still is just an incredibly hectic night tonight for police and for protesters.
Yeah, a couple of people still here on West State Street and Avon in that area. But this isn't the only city with protests like this going on in our country. Multiple cities having the same type of experience tonight. Let's take a look at what's happening around the country tonight.
Minnesota's governor says most of the violent protesters arrested Friday in Minneapolis and St. Paul were outside agitators, not even from the region, saying the violence is no longer related to George Floyd's death.
What started out as a community and a state trying to make ourselves better and understand where we failed, to demand justice and express righteous anger, has morphed into something very, very different.
Protesters remained in the streets of Minneapolis and St. Paul despite Friday night curfews. President Trump offering the U.S. military's help.
Look, they've got to be tough. They've got to be smart. We have our military ready, willing, and able.
The Twin Cities, the epicenter, but the outrage now nationwide. Protests took place Friday night from Atlanta to Dallas to Los Angeles. At the core, the death of 46-year-old George Floyd, an unarmed black man who died in the custody of Minneapolis police Monday. One officer has been arrested and charged. Charges against the other 3 officers involved are likely to come.
The wheels of justice are moving, and now they're moving swiftly. But we need you to help us make sure that justice is done.
In Minneapolis, I'm Dave Fortress.
And that's what it looked like in Minneapolis and across our country tonight. It has been violent here. We've seen rocks and bottles thrown at police. We've seen tear gas from police toward protesters, along with mace as well here on the corner of State and Avon.
But you know what this night did, while it ended violently, it did not start that way. In fact, today started off with a message of positivity and a message of hope. And we're going to have more of that message coming up to you tonight after this break. On the heels of protests across cities across the country, and before the protest started here in Rockford, there was a different kind of demonstration that took place in Rockford this morning.
Our 13 News reporter Richard Bodie has more and shows us how music has a positive message for engaging our youth in our community.
Saturday morning, Brandon Gordon came to the steps of Rockford's federal courthouse to deliver a message.
African American people have been oppressed and suppressed, rationalized, demonized in this country for a long time. And the west side of Rockford especially, and as an African American in the United States, we often don't have someone tell us that you are somebody.
Gordon, a Rockford native, delivers that message in the form of a music video to his song called You Are Somebody. But Gordon wasn't alone. A lot of somebodies showed up to help him and to have their voices be heard.
It's just very important that we don't sit and watch wrongdoings occur and think that because it's not us, it doesn't matter.
It's just creating awareness and letting people know, hey, we can't continue to let this happen.
And what can't continue to happen are instances of violence affecting the black community, including, but not limited to, the death of George Floyd.
The only question I got is why.
You see a traffic stop that looks to be getting aggressive, pull over, watch. Let them know that they're being watched, that people care about the lives that they are mishandling.
But while Gordon supports that message, he believes the most important voices are those of our children.
I needed to be out here to raise hope and peace to our culture, our nation, because what's going on in this world is not right. And even in schools, people are getting, of our hair and our color, people are getting disrespected, and it's not right.
Activists say it is their hope this peaceful demonstration brings unity at a time when we need it most. For your 13 Weather Authority, Richard Bodie, 13 News.
So that's how this day started at the federal courthouse here, very peaceful before it went to a peaceful protest in Haskell Park at about 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah, we are still here outside District 1 headquarters in Rockford where that peaceful protest had turned violent. We're going to have more on this newscast coming up after the break. Hello again, Kristen Crowley here with James Stratton outside District 1 Police Headquarters in Rockford, covering what became a chaotic and violent protest here, a rally that was supposed to start peaceful, but the good news, James, from what we're looking at right now, it looks like those crowds have dispersed. It looks like we have ended the night without any serious injuries.
At least in this area. We came on the air here at 10 o'clock with tear gas coming over our shoulders, and we now stand here with no tear gas and no protesters that were standing in the lawn of RPD District 1. So it seems to have dispersed from here. We are not sure about the other parts of the city. We are hearing sirens throughout downtown at the moment.
Yeah, so it's definitely, I know we've got some video earlier tonight about exactly what was just transpiring before our very eyes over the last few hours, and it just kept escalating and escalating from 7 o'clock at night, from when people started throwing rocks at District 1 headquarters windows, to then when the SWAT team came out and the police came out in that riot gear, and then they were face to face just pushing back with each other. I mean, it was scary being in the middle of this.
It was a tense moment, especially with Wizenand in the middle trying to talk to people while police were on one side and protesters were on the other here, as they sort of marched back and forth across the grass here on RPD District 1. Again, you mentioned rocks through the windows. There are rocks sitting in the community room at Rockford Police District 1 right now, holes in the windows as well.
And the hope is now is we wanted to make sure we covered this and gave you everything of what you could see here from the police, from the crowd. And so we hope that this has ended peacefully for now at least. And we appreciate you watching us and staying tuned to this. For James Stratton, I'm Kristen Crowley. We'll see you again for 13 News.